So Cal, you think that 40k is heading for an implosion?
Yeah, I do, and unfortunately for all of the wrong reasons.
What do you mean the wrong reasons?
I mean that, unfortunately, the reasons why it's heading for an implosion are the things that I like about 40k. So currently, with all of those kill teams and all of those small little additions that is happening with 40k, for example, the Ashes of Faith thing, I thought that was great. All of these little releases where they expand the universe out, there's just not shelf space for it.
Yeah, I get that. I used to work for a company that handled consignments and things like that, and usually the retail stores would tell us, no, we've got to stop stocking certain products because they're not selling, or, need to make room for other sellers and things like that, and it's always been a big issue.
And this is one of the things that I think Warhammer fans often forget, the business side of things.
Yeah, and it's easy to kind of come in and say like, oh yes, the price hikes and things like that, and there is probably truth to that.
And there is truth to that.
But they also need to... They're a games company, right? Let's take a look at regular old board games like Carcassonne or what was Cities of Catan? I forget the name. Anyhow, games like that, you can just buy one box and play that game for years on end until the cardboard is falling apart. And that's when you would probably get a new box of those games. And if you're playing just one game, one box that you purchase one time for years on end, how are these game companies meant to make money throughout that, that big gap where people aren't buying anything?
And that's one of the other points I wanted to come to. I like how they're expanding the universe out. Okay, it might not exactly be expanding the universe out because the lore for many of these things already exists, but giving us miniatures for these things. For example, it's been a long time since we got inquisitorial acolytes. But the Ashes of Faith brought that back in. The Ashes of Faith brought in a lot of things that I like. Not just that, but the idea of these mixed forces and how inquisitorial forces are. And those new inquisitorial agents, just fantastic. The way that they sort of mix and match everything together, I think that's really cool. But shelf space is a thing. And the other thing with it is... as you create more variety, you split your player base.
I don't quite follow.
Okay, the Tau, they've been around for a while now, but they're a new faction.
Okay.
So, you've got to support your factions, right?
Yeah, you should.
Alright, between 2015 and 2020, the Tau got a release of one model.
Only one?
Yeah.
What are they doing in the meantime?
Exactly, and the Eldar players are probably going, you mean you got one model? Well, what about us? Some of our models are still in fine cast, which means that they're just going off the old metal sculpts and putting them into resin.
Well, I would say that there is another point to look at when you sort of update these models, right? Once you have a certain collection, because each army has certain units that you need to fulfill, and once the player has collected all of these units, they're done, and if they're releasing something new, there's not much room to add on to your army after that.
Well, see, I think that there's a way of doing it, which is just the way that they've been re-releasing models now. For example, nobody goes, I'll go back to the old striking scorpions. They're like, are you insane? No, these ones look amazing.
Yeah, way cooler and nicer
that's
too.
how you do that. But still, the thing is, when it comes to that, for some factions, you are waiting years.
Right, for something to come up and do some upgrade with your army and things like that. Now, when it comes to the store side of things, they're probably only stocking Space Marines, for example, and GW is not going to be very happy with that.
Or if they can, they're only stocking Space Marines, but Games Workshop's probably like, you have to stock these.
Yes, because, Space Marines really sell, but let's say they really want you to stock Tau. The shops will sit there and go, why are we stocking Tau when they only get an update every 5 years?
Yeah, and the player base only gets excited all of that time. But to be fair, I think that Games Workshop has done a much better job recently of giving everybody a little bit of a release throughout every year. But you'll see it's often just one or two characters, and you're like, ooh, that's rough, buddy.
But on that point, when we talk about just one or two things, right? When they think about it from the shop's perspective and shelf space, you're going to probably be able to fill one rack with individual models and updates rather than an entire box set.
So with that, we had a discussion with one of our members on Discord. Do you remember the discussion we had about the idea of the Death Company? I said Deathwing
Yeah,
the
you
other
said
time.
Deathwing. I was like, hold on, isn't the Deathwing a Dark Angel thing?
Yeah, and we're talking about the Blood Angels, and I'm just like, and after that, you're just like, oh, they've got to name things
They
other
got
than
like
Death.
every Death thing here, Death thing there. I was like, what?
Anyway, we'll get back to it.
Yeah,
the thing was, they were like, oh, I hate that they're not actually giving us individual Death Company.
Almost said Deathwing again.
Death Company units, which is they're only giving an upgrade sprue rather than individual models. And he's like, if we got individual models, they'd have a bit more flair and so on and so forth, right? And I said, no, that's great because that means it'll stick around.
Yeah, and you also mentioned how you could fill one whole shelf with like different blister packs of upgrade kits for every different maybe marine or different factions, and that's like just one and done, and everyone gets something.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if it's not on the shelves, you're not getting them.
Well, they can just shop
No,
online.
they can't, because you just take a look at the GW website. Have you seen how available things are on there?
They're not always.
What do you expect them to do? Go to every different online store in Australia and find what they're looking for? I don't think so. And you know why I know this?
Okay, tell us.
Remember when a client wanted special kill team boxes, which were available?
Okay, yeah,
you
they
had
weren't
to
even
get
special.
your
they were
friend,
just that season,
your friend from UK to order from GW there and ship it over to us.
Yeah,
there is
true.
that.
Oh, and there was the Ogren problem.
The Ogren problem.
Where, like, none of the shops had it. GW didn't have it, so I had to...
Pre-order, right?
No, I didn't pre-order it. I got it through an eBay store.
Oh, even worse. You have to go to eBay to find these things as well.
Oh, yes. And this is what I was talking about when I said it's heading for an implosion. I don't think that Games Workshop is over, or it's 40k, the end times. No, I'm just saying, take a look at the availability. Take a look at how things, you can't get a hold of things right now, right? I don't even have to say sometime off into the future like Professor X or something. I just go, here. Look at the thing.
Yes.
It's like those things where it goes, please show me the package you didn't receive.
Oh my god, yes. Like every online store's like, I didn't receive my package. Please send picture of package you did not receive. Oh my gosh.
And there's something much less funny that I want to bring up, which is the Age of Sigmar, I guess you can call it Purge or something?
The Great Purge.
Yeah, well...
that's what I'm calling it anyway.
Anyway, so the point is they got rid of a whole lot of Stormcast Eternal, as well as...
certain other factions as well,
Yeah, and the thing is with that, you take a look at it, and you take a look at how bloated the Space Marines are currently, and you have to be thinking to yourself... how well are all of these things selling?
Yeah, exactly. And it is what they mentioned in the post that, they're not selling well. At what point does GW become the restaurant with the infinite menu problem? If you've watched Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen where they go visit failing businesses, half the time it's because the business has a really lengthy menu and he goes in and says, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he cuts it down to like 10 options and then boom, now it's doing well. Amongst other things like revamping and all that. But that's one of the things that he does.
Yeah, what you're saying is when you've got all of these infinite options, people just go, I don't know what I want.
People want options, but they don't want all of the options.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's some people in the comments going, yeah, well, I want all the options. And it's like, I'm sorry, you're not the majority of the consumer base.
And this is also something a little bit of a graphic designer insight, is that we also don't give clients like more than the options that we select are the best. If not, they end up choosing the bad option and then they put themselves down the wrong lane as well. So we don't give too many options, so you can just pick one and go with it.
It's just like us with the polls. When we put out the poll options, we're like, we're never going to put out anything where we don't actually want to make the video.
Yeah, exactly. But we still want you to have a choice and choose what interests you.
It's just we don't want to put anything on that poll, and we have made that mistake once of putting something on there. And
everyone chose the one that we didn't want to do, and it's like,
Actually, there was a bit of a kerfuffle in this poll. I was just like, just read the full post, guys, and they're just like, oh, it's a sickness that they want to hear negative things about their hobby, and maybe they just like the idea of the topic.
I mean, I don't think this is a very negative episode to begin with.
We're just basically going, here, this is why we think this thing's going to happen, this is why we think a lot of units might be moving to Legends, and that'll be unfortunate, but what we're trying to do is, hey, look, this is a reality that might be coming forward. Prepare for it.
Yeah, and it's when you're the company, what do? You have the customers who are screaming at you for, all these little requests and complaints. But at the same time, as the business, you know what will do well, and you need to make those business decisions as well so that you can pay the employees, operation costs, all this sort of thing.
And I think it's really important to take a look at this with a much more open view, because I would like you guys to know about another company who did listen to the customers and got badly burnt for it, which is TSR.
Who's TSR?
TSR are the original owners of Dungeons and Dragons, right? And you know how profitable Dungeons and Dragons are, but they ran it into the ground by doing exactly what's happening with 40k, splitting off in lots of directions.
Okay.
TSR made so many great settings, and I love almost every single one of them. They made Planescape, Ravenloft, Alquid Dim, Dark Sun, Dragonlance, Birthright, Mystara. That's the ones that I can get off the top of my head. So, as you can see, that's quite a lot of them.
Oh, yeah. And as players of one setting, you're not going to go buy the other ones.
Yeah, just like 40k. If you're playing one army, you're not going to buy a different army unless, well, I think that they had something really cool back in the day, which was allies, where you could bring in different forces from other factions into your army.
Doesn't Age of Sigmar do that with some of the factions? You can ally them together.
That's mainly due to the Cities of Sigmar, so it's a yes and no thing.
Yeah, okay, but it's also not 40k related. That's a different game, so yeah.
But that's something that I want to come back to when I said, is it heading for an implosion? So currently there's a question of, are all of the firstborn Marines going to be removed from the books and all of that sort of thing? And I think that they are. I think that it's inevitable. But I also think that the way that the Primaris Marines are set up, I don't think that it's that useful.
You mean in terms of like lore, game mechanics, or the models?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, I know we talked about this offline or, outside of the mics, but you did say that the firstborns were very easy to understand in terms of assembly, and, later on it just gets a bit complicated.
It's not just that, it's also how they're used in the lore, and I'll get into it for just a minute. So, I like the Primaris Marines, but I don't like how they're built, and I don't like the lore. And I don't think that's a controversial statement. But what I think the Primaris need is they need to maybe be called the Tacticus Intercessors or something like that, right? And what you do is you roll in the tactical squads into these guys, right? And you're just done with it. You give the Primaris special weapons, because why can they not use special weapons? Who knows? I'm sorry, they're meant to be more more advanced, right? And for some reason they're like, yes, because they're more advanced, we limit their options. And it's
of course.
My brain, it hurts. And look, you just give the firstborn Marines, you just go, look, you can still use these guys with these rules, right? But we're rolling them out of the system. And while you're rolling them out of the system, make the heavy intercessors, the Intercessor Devastatus, whatever.
Devastatus Mechanicus and Andreas.
Yeah, okay.
Why not?
the thing is, the copyrightedness, But you get the idea, right, guys? The whole thing is you just give them the copyrightable name.
The copyrightacus name.
Yes, copyrightacus. Get to it. Roll out.
Oh my god. I am Optimus Prime, and you will defend the copyrightacus to no end. Autoboticus, roll out.
This is terrible. I'm including this. I'm not taking it out.
Yeah, I feel I could have done it better, but never mind.
After a short break, we return to WAYPN, slightly more seriously.
So what were we talking about?
The whole idea is that you roll some of these things together. For example, the Nerf gun guys, whatever their name is,
Desolation Squad.
What? No, like, aren't they the whole idea is they're meant to make copyrightable names, and they're like, the Desolation. Oh, people can just copy that word for word. There is no reason why. Anyway, I'm going to get back on track.
Yes.
So you could even roll in together the Centurions, the Aggressors, and the Intercessors into a single unit, and just like the fortified guys in the Codex, you know, the fortified Marines, and just have it fortified Marines with jump packs, you know, close combat ones, and just have it one entry. And that's one way that they can sort of bundle everything together, right?
Yeah, okay. And that would be still in line with the original sort of the style of a tactical squad, because that did really well.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like you can have all of these things, and the reason why I say just give it to the firstborn is because, listen, a lot of your consumer base is the firstborn Marine, so just give it to them, right? Listen, you won't give it to anyone else, but they're the special snowflakes. Just please give it to them so that we can move on with our lives.
Oh, okay. But Cal, don't you like the firstborn Marines?
Yes, I am one of those special snowflakes. What I'm saying is just this way you can move on with things without there being drama. They become, you know, the Tacticus Invictus Solaris.
The Tacticus Victorious.
Whatever. I don't care.
Lamentus.
Stop it.
Furiatus.
Stop. You just roll them together in the Codex. Everyone's happy this way. You reduce the bloat. You reduce the blowback from that, because, listen, if that Age of Sigmar thing caused blowback, this thing would be 1,000 times worse, right?
Yeah, agreed.
So instead just go, no, don't worry, firstborn guys. You can just use them as these guys. Don't worry about stuff. And like the people who whine will not be heard as much, because people will be like, what are you complaining about? You can still use your models. And the Age of Sigmar guys will be like, yeah, you can still use your models.
Yes, what are you complaining about?
Exactly.
Yeah, I suppose that's correct.
But after thinking about all of this, the one thing that just runs around in my head is the things that I actually like about Games Workshop when they're exploring those more niche ideas. That might be the thing that leads to this implosion.
Yeah, which is quite ironic when you think about it.
Oh, and also, do you think, like, from what I've said, it makes sense that this will happen?
You might actually be right, but let's talk about that in the wrap-up.
Alright, so we've got the Death Company, the Death Guard, the Death Wing, the Death Watch.
Death Watch,
We got the Death Cult Assassins.
Okay,
Death Corp of Kree.
Death Leaper.
You know the bit's getting old.
Yeah, I only said one.
Well, it's getting old.
Or maybe I should go back to the copyrighticus joke.
No, alright. So the only thing that I really wanted to talk about a bit more was the chapter organizations and how they worked, but I think that wasn't very relevant to the topic at hand.
Oh yeah, I think what you said is correct, is that it seems that it might suffer from the infinite menu problem if they keep going on in this way. But I can also see the conundrum on their side. Like, how do you continue to create interesting new things for people to buy and get into?
Well, obviously you release a Primaris Captain.
Oh yes, don't they have those?
Yeah, one or two.
Wait, really? Yes?
Yeah.
They've got it, right?
Yeah.
Do they or don't they?
I have no idea if you're playing this straight or if you don't know.
They're like a million captains and chaplains
so
and things.
the death... Oh, sorry, not death.
The death guard, the death captain, the death chaplain.
Oh, I realize I just said it wrong. I meant Primaris Lieutenant.
Yeah, okay,
There's a million
Lieutenant.
Primaris Lieutenants.
Because, like, when you say captain, I'm like, that's like a really basic role that you
that's
should
your
have
standard HQ sort of guy.
Yeah, like, wouldn't you have one of those? Like,
yeah, but they've released so many Primaris Lieutenants, and
Yeah,
people
my
eat
God.
them up for some reason.
The Phobos Lieutenant especially.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Why are you like this, dude? Well, we hope that you have enjoyed Is Games Workshop heading towards an implosion? And you see what we're saying. We're not like, oh, Games workshop's over, like we said. But yeah, so if you liked this much more sort of casual style of episode, please let us know. And if you would like to support us, you can get access to the Discord for as little as $2
through the Ko-Fi membership, or if you join us here on YouTube, you can have access to that as well.
Yeah, it's just included with that. But if you go to the higher tier, you get access to STLs that we have had made for our own game.
And exclusive content.
And as always, keep those brushes wet. Bye-bye.